Hello and welcome to the Special Education Parent University session. My name is Dr. Mike Majorano. I'm head of special ed at Ridgewood High School. And also joining us is our transition specialist, Kelly Bukaloo. And Kelly's going to talk to you a little bit about what she does with her work in transition. And I think a little bit about the SAT that's coming up in the spring too. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly and then she will bring it back to me. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Mike. Some really big concepts that we want all of our students at Ridgewood to work on and practice and feel confident about. One being self-awareness and just knowing their strengths, their weaknesses, what they're good at, what they need help with. And that goes hand in hand then with self-advocacy. We really want them to feel comfortable speaking up for themselves, speaking up for others, asking others when they need help, being confident with themselves. And again, really knowing their strengths and weaknesses and how they can apply them to different real world skills. In our department, we as a team work really hard to help the students, create a tool belt, if you will, of different skills to help them navigate their way to life after Ridgewood and their different educational and career goals. So my role as transition specialist, we have different objectives, different things we want our students working at each grade level. Again, just making sure they feel supported, and feel prepared for when they do graduate from Ridgewood and move on to the next step of their life. So as freshman year, we focus on, understanding the IEP. When we are in the building, COVID's made it a little bit difficult, but when students are in the building, we have student-led IEPs, which are very powerful and successful. As sophomores, we are trying to get more exposure to real world things. So we have different job shadows, career exploration activities. As juniors, we really encourage our students to take advantage of our Division of Rehab Services program, which I'll get into in a little bit. And then students will prepare for the SAT. And then as seniors, we want our students who are college bound, looking to go on to the next step of their education, applying for FAFSA, applying for accommodations at the college level, if that's something they'd like to do, applying for DOORS funding, which I'll get into again, and maybe getting their driver's license, bank account, things like that. So we really work on these skills from freshman year to senior year to make sure they are feeling confident and successful and like they're prepared for life after Ridgewood. In our department, we also have a life program for students with severe and profound disabilities. And this includes students who are medically fragile. We have many teachers in this program, wonderful paraprofessionals, amazing related services staff. And we have an amazing social worker that helps our families connect with different community agencies, post-secondary programs. In the past, we've done different transition fairs to help connect families and students to different agencies and resources in the community. So that's something else we take a lot of pride in this department. I did mention DOORS earlier, so I wanted to bring that back up. So DOORS stands for Division of Rehabilitation Services. It's a state agency that works with students with IEPs, as well as when they become adults. And their main goal is to get people working. So this is a free program. Typically as sophomores, we start introducing this to students and their families. We really encourage students to open this free DOORS case account. If students have an open door if students do have an open case with DOORS, this will follow them not only in high school, but again as adults. So let's say a junior decides they're going to sign up for this free program. They get to meet with our wonderful DOORS representative. Her and I work really closely together to make sure we have student appointments locked in, and we work with the student to help them with their career goal. And the student then, let's say they decide they want to be an ultrasound technician. So they know, hey, after Ridgewood, I'm going to go on to Triton Community College. I'm going to take these classes because I want to be an ultrasound tech. Doors can actually help the student financially. As senior students can apply for Doors funding to help them accomplish this goal. So it's very similar to a scholarship program, and it's a great program. Like I said, if students have an open case as adults, let's say for some reason they are struggling to find a job or had a job and for some reason they lost it, they can call up their local Doors office and tell them they already have a case open, and Doors can look them up in the system and immediately start connecting them with various agencies and resources. So it's a really great program that many of our students take advantage of. So again, I want to mention the accommodations at the post-secondary level, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. This, for any student who's looking to continue their education after Ridgewood and attend post-secondary education, they can apply for accommodations at the college level. So every program looks different, but there are accommodations available for students. Every college has a different disability resource center or support center. They're all called different things, but transition support is available to help guide students through this process. So some examples of accommodations could be maybe testing in a separate location instead of in a lecture hall, access to digital formats of a book, using a note taker in class, things like that. So that's another example of different support that we give students. And one more resource I wanted to mention before I hand the floor back to Dr. Mike. We also work with Lasik's transition program. So for students who they have a career goal in mind, but they're not sure how they're going to get there, maybe they're not ready for college quite yet, they can take advantage of our partnership with the Lasik transition program. And they can work on different independent living skills, communication skills, social skills, any skill that they think they need more help or support with. They will work on that in this program. They also help with different vocational training, personal care and hygiene skills, shopping, food preparation, navigating the community. That's a really big one. Enrolling at community college, and just various other independent living skills that are essential for success as adulthood. So those are some of the main things that we do in our department. And I know Dr. Mike wanted to talk about some different strategies that students can use right now during this time with remote learning. So Dr. Mike, I'm going to hand the floor back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Kelly, and thanks for all that great information. The information that Kelly spoke about really comes into focus as the students advance from grade to grade, right? So when they become juniors and seniors, and we start out freshmen and sophomores, but then it just ramps up because we want to get them set for life after Ridgewood. And that's really what Kelly's all about, is making sure that every student has a path once they graduate. So thank you very much. Good information. I am going to talk to you just a little bit about some strategies or some tips about how to better help your child engage with the instruction during remote learning, right? So we all know this has been a very trying time for everybody. It has been successful for some, not so successful for others, and pretty in between for everybody else, right? So a couple of things that you can do to help your student become more engaged with the curriculum. And there's a few simple steps, and they all center around setting up routines, setting up study space, setting up goals, and practicing regular communication. And at the very end is also very important is self-care. So I'm going to start with routines, and we're going to go through these pretty quickly. A lot of it is just common sense, but I want to remind you that these are strategies that are really designed for all students, but particularly students with special needs, because quite often our students with special needs have problems with organization and setting up routines. So they need to be explicitly taught or explicitly reminded about doing some of these things. So that is to say, if you tell them once on Monday, don't necessarily expect that they're going to remember by Tuesday or Wednesday, or surely not by Thursday or Friday. So these are things that you have to work with your child on, and hopefully get it ingrained in their thinking. So the first thing is setting up routines. Setting up routines is very, very important. So you want to ask yourself, how can you ensure that your child is going to have a predictable routine? So one of the simplest things to do is, everyone pretty much has a phone or an iPad. Have your child wake up and go to bed at the same time, and set daily alarms and reminders of what time they need to get up and what time they need to go to bed. It's really important that that routine be enforced. And that also includes turning off the games and turning off the TV by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever you deem most appropriate. But setting those alarms on the phone will serve as a good reminder of when your child should be turning down off their technology and heading to bed. Um, Another thing you can do is you can have your child use the calendar on their phones or their iPad. For this, they can mark down what days and what times they actually have classes, and when they're supposed to meet with their teachers through their Zoom calls, right? They can also you could also remind them of when they have office hours and when advisory is, if there's study groups that go along with some of their classes. So take the time to set these calendar reminders. And the good thing about this is, quite often, a lot of these tasks will have the same time throughout the day. So it'll be pretty easy just to set it once or twice and leave it. Um, the same thing you can do is with setting up dates for major assignments, right? You've got a big project due in 6 weeks. Well, between now and 6 weeks, people tend to forget about things, but you can set up reminders in your calendar, which will go off to remind your child that, hey, you've got a really big assignment coming up. So it just serves as a good reminder. The next task or tip I want to talk to you about is study space. So it's a really good idea to decide what space your child is going to be learning in, and keep it organized. And that goes far into keeping them very productive. So what should this space look like to increase your child's focus and productivity? So one of the things you need to do is ask your child, explore with your child what works best for them. Some people work better in very, very quiet environments. Some people like some ambient noise or some white noise in the background that helps them focus. So you need to have these conversations and find out what works best for your child. Another thing to do is to turn off the phone while they're studying, or even better is to simply remove the phone for an hour or two, or however long that time is designated if they're going to be studying, so they won't get distracted. Another thing you can do too is you can use some internet blocking software to help focus your child on the specific sites that you need them to be looking at, while blocking out all the other sites, such as games or YouTube or various TikToks and all that kind of stuff. You also want to minimize distractions as much as possible. So you want to figure out where your child will learn best, right? And you want to make sure that that spot is their designated area. So when it comes time to study, if you have more than one child, or if you've got people working from home, you don't want everyone fighting over the kitchen table. You should know in advance that Johnny's going to be in his room, Susie's going to be in the basement, and mom's going to be at the kitchen table, and dad's going to be working from the bedroom. These are their spots. This is their area for this amount of time. You also want to make sure that if your child is in an area that they feel is too comfortable, for example, a bedroom, or if they're sitting on the couch, if they're prone to fall asleep, you want to make sure that it's not too comfortable and that they are falling asleep, right? So you don't want that to happen either. So you want to make sure that it's a space where they are comfortable, but not too comfortable. Another area that you want to look at is how are you going to help your child keep their materials organized? In school, we've often used just colored folders, green for math, red for language arts, purple for social studies. Excuse me. So you want to take a few minutes to organize, help your child organize all of their papers if they're printing things out, just to help them keep a sense of organization, and that will help them feel like they're in control of their learning. Very important is to help your child set goals. So at the beginning of every week, you should say, okay, here's what we need to accomplish this week. And then break that week down into smaller chunks of days and maybe even into hours, right? So you want to make sure that you're mapping out all of the work that your child needs to accomplish, but do it in a way that makes them feel that it is doable and achievable, and that they feel good after they have finished a task. And I would also add that you may want to incentivize them a little bit once they do finish a task, whether it be a whole week's worth of work or a day's worth of work, or maybe a few hours worth of work. It's always good to let your child know that you are proud of them for accomplishing this goal. It also is good to look ahead with your child with their syllabus for big projects and big assignments that are coming up in the next couple of months, in the next couple of weeks, right? So you don't want anything to kind of derail them from their thinking. There should be no surprises, right? Everything should be clear. Everything should be transparent. They should know what's going on. You as the parent should know what's going on. Which brings me down to my next kind of tip is communication. It is so important that you stay in regular communication with your child's teacher. So you need to figure out with your child's teacher or teachers or case manager, what is the best way for you to keep in touch with him or her, whether it be on Zoom calls, or texting, or emailing, or just simply phone calls. It is so important that you understand how your child is progressing through this remote learning. And you are seeing it from your child's side, but you now also need to see it from the teacher's side. So you get a very balanced view of the work that they are accomplishing or not accomplishing. So figure out a way that works best for you and the teachers. And that may well be calling later in the evening or earlier in the morning. And the case managers and the teachers are really good about meeting you at your schedule. And finally, I'd like to say that it is equally important for you and your child to practice self-care. Make sure you're eating right, make sure you're getting enough exercise, make sure you're taking time away from the books and the Zoom and all the technology to just kind of be still and to think and to just have old-fashioned family discussions about life and what's going on in the world. That is equally as important. So those are just a few tips, and I think that these tips can be used for any kid, any adult, but in particular, students with special needs, because again, students with special needs have a difficult time often of keeping up with routines and staying organized. So it's a lot of reminding and it's a lot of involvement on the parent side. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Bukalu for a goodbye, and then we will wrap this up.
No, thank you very much. Those were some great tips that I was putting in my mind as well of things that I need to make sure I'm doing to stay on top of everything. So thank you very much. And thank you for having me, Dr. Mike. I
Thank,
appreciate it.
thank you for being here. And to all the parents, good luck, stay safe, stay healthy. And we will see you in person soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.